Hello and welcome to the Savage Movie Night podcast. I am your sniveling weasel killing a charismatic leader for no clear reason host, Adam. Joining me as always are our radio DJ giving secret gang instructions over a broadcast co-host, Kristen. How are you, Kristen?
Hey, Adam, I'm good. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, it's almost like we just did this 3 minutes ago for part one.
Wow. You haven't changed in 3 minutes.
I know. And, but we are scrambling to come up with new questions to ask you at the start of this. So have you seen any good movies recently? Although I know the answer because we're talking about this offline.
Oh, yeah, there's been a lot of new good movies. But, I think obviously one of the big standouts is Godzilla -1. But there's another movie that I know has been getting a lot of buzz that I think is worth the hype, and it's on Amazon Prime. It's called Saltburn. That one it's like a drama thriller. It's intense. It's very intense. It's a really good ride. Jacob Elordi is in it and Barry Keoghan, and they both are just incredible. The whole cast is incredible. And I don't even want to say much about it because it's better to just go in blind because I did, and it was just wild.
Yeah. I've not seen it. I've heard a lot of buzz and memes about it and bath candles.
Oh my God. Once you know, you will never be able to unknow. That particular, I didn't even know about the memes when I saw that. So when I tell you, I was shook to my core. Oh, I loved it though. It's it was the first movie I watched this year in 2024, and it was it raised the bar for this year, that's for sure.
Oh, awesome. All right. And also joining us, as always, is our Can You Dig It co-host, Rob. How are you, Rob?
I'm feeling great, Adam. Thank you for having me once again. What's happening, Kristen?
Yeah.
Hello, Rob.
And Rob, any upcoming music releases you are excited about?
Upcoming music releases. I like to see anything be better than last year. I was very disappointed in 2023 overall on overall releases. I think that maybe I'd like to see something Kendrick probably is what I'd be looking forward to.
Well, fingers crossed. But I think chances are good. We'll get something new out of him. If not, just follow him. You're in LA. You can just follow him around and kick him in the shins until he gives you what you want.
That's an idea. That's definitely an idea. I think that there's one thing you might be able to update me on. I'm hearing a rumor that there is another Mad Max coming out.
Yeah, it's a
prequel.
It's a prequel for Furiosa. So Anna Taylor-Joy is taking over the part from Charlize Theron. George Miller is back to write and direct. Should be, fingers crossed it should be good, because Miller is a very good director who, in addition to, well, in addition to, the Mad Max series, you also have to remember he also directed Babe and Happy Feet. Not a joke.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
And before he did the original Mad Max, because he's done every movie in the Mad Max series, but before he did the first one, he was doctor in Australia, primarily like ER and stuff, and that served as some of his inspiration.
Look at this. The fountain of information just flows out of you.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like we should have a podcast.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, and that leads us to, for today, we are here to talk about part 2 of our talk about the Warriors, the 1979 cult classic. If you haven't listened to part 1, stop right now, whatever you're doing, go check it out, and then come right back here as we wrap up the film. When last we left, our heroes had ventured far from their Coney Island home to attend a summit called by the charismatic leader Cyrus. Just after his rousing speech, Cyrus is killed by Luther, leader of the rogues, but he manages to blame it on our heroes, the warriors, in the chaos. The Warriors are now trying to make their way through 30 miles of enemy territory to reach the safety of the Coney Island shore. Can they make it home? Will they clear their name? Will the movie succeed at the box office? We'll find out. But first, a quick word from our sponsor. Today's episode is brought to you by Jazzology with Willard Jenkins. Jazzology is a fun and challenging jazz trivia show where two contestants go head to head for the chance to win $100 and prove their jazz knowledge. Watch along and see if you know the answers. Want to prove you are a true jazzologist by appearing as a contestant on the show? Use the link in the description of any episode to sign up. New episodes air every other Friday on Savage Content YouTube channel, youtube.com/Savage Content, and all past episodes are available under the Live tab. Thanks to Jazzology for sponsoring today's episode. And now, back to the show.
Okay, so continuing into the rest of the movie, where you're cutting back and forth between two different timelines, or not timelines, but two different stories, two different groups here. So Vermin, Cochise, and Rembrandt, they are getting off of at Union Square, and they are seduced by this all-female gang called the Lizzies. That's their introduction. And with the other group, they are just wrapping up the whole ordeal with a baseball gang, and they're continuing their trek home. And Ajax sees a lone woman sitting on a park bench, and he's like, this is a chance to shoot my shot. And so he goes over to this woman, but of course he's intense, as we've seen throughout the whole movie, and so he becomes sexually aggressive really quickly. But the woman is actually revealed to be an undercover police officer, so she handcuffs him to the bench and then calls back up to arrest him. So that's going on. And then back with the girl gang, the three guys, they're invited into the hideout, and they're kind of like thinking like, oh, I've got it pretty good right now, like we're meeting new people. But and then, so it's like back and forth, like it's gonna seem like whiplash, but it's like this happening, then this happening, then this happening. So while that's happening with the hideout, Swan is trying to act on his own and return to the 96th Street station. Mercy kind of joins him, and he's trying to figure out a way for them to get back. And while he's doing that, there's another cop ambush, and they have to run away and then walk the train tunnels to try to make it to the station. And so that's kind of all happening in this section. And then there's also the DJ kind of giving updates. The particular one I wanted to point out that I didn't really bring up earlier when we were talking about the Baseball Furies is there is like a song called The Fight that is played during the park fight. And I'm sure Adam has this in his notes, but I hope you don't mind if I just say it. I think one of the big reasons they put music to that is because apparently it was too intense to watch in silence.
Mm-hmm.
Like they didn't, with nothing, it was like too aggressive. So they had to kind of add the song to like lighten the mood, which I thought was very interesting.
Bats being swung. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, just bats being swung and grunting and
breaking bones.
Yeah.
Screams of agony.
That's awesome. So I was kind of laughing when you recapped that because that was a whole lot there. And I know there was a lot happening and it's moving quickly. Ajax. So the character Ajax was probably the most what's the word? I mean,
he's swarmy, he's slimy.
And he wants to fight for power, and he challenges to be the head of the Warriors unsuccessfully, because Swan sort of becomes that guy. But Ajax is consistently he's the guy you don't want at the party.
He's the hothead. He's the too filled of testosterone to
way too much.
Yeah.
And so when he basically attempts to rape this like and she ends up being an undercover cop, I don't know. One of the first things I thought was like, oh my God, this woman does this. Like I like this was her MO. Like this is what she does as a police officer.
Mm-hmm.
She sets herself up to catch rapists in this way. I was like, wow, what a tough woman. Like that was amazing in itself.
Yeah. Scary place to be in.
Totally. And in that scene too, you kind of got like those really eerie vibes of what being in the park and being so dark and what had happened back in the day and probably still happens if you're not careful. Like it was crazy. You'll recognize Ajax, the actor James Remar. I think I'm saying his name, Ramar.
Hmm.
But you recognize him right away from many TV shows and movies. He won the part by impressing Hill during the audition when he lifted the end of a very heavy table while performing a scene demonstrating power and danger that Ajax, right, was supposed to convey. So he played the part really well. Like the rest of the cast, this was Ramar's first big role, and he would go on to have a long career roles in films like Too Fast, Too Furious, the Django Unchained, most recently Oppenheimer, tons of TV roles. I think I know that my wife and probably others her age know him best from being one of the characters on Sex and the City, Jericho, The Legend of Korra, and one of his most well-known roles is the one he lost when when Aliens was being cast. Rimar won the role of Hicks, uh, in part because of his friendship with Walter Hill. Rimar went through some intense training with the British Special Air Service along with his fellow castmates, but a few days into the filming, he was replaced by Michael Biehn. The reason cited was artistic differences, and this seemed possible as director James Cameron and Biehn worked together on the Terminator. However, Raymar later said that he had a pretty bad drug problem during this time period and had been arrested for possession, which is really what led to his firing. Do you have any insight in the backstory there, Adam, on
I
what?
mean that's pretty much it. Like, that had been a weird thing. Like they got like there's like one or two shots left in the movie where it's like you see the back of Remar's head and like a slightly out of focus group shot or something where you see that Remar is still in it. And it had always just been assumed that it was legitimate creative differences, power things, that Walter Hill was a writer producer again on Aliens, and that he'd used his influence to get his guy Remar into the part, but Cameron had preferred Michael Biehn, who's a guy he not only worked with in The Terminator and Aliens, but then a bunch of his movies. Cameron has his guys he likes to work with. That's same as Bill Paxton. Bill Paxton was in The Terminator. He's in Aliens. He's in a lot of almost every James Cameron movie until Paxton passed
Right.
away. And so, it was just, the thought up and, for a long time had just been, oh, it was, just Cameron forcing, his guy into the spot.
Got it.
But then, Remark came out. I was like, no, I was totally, messed up at the time. And,
Well, this
you know,
explains why he played an unsettled character so well. I mean,
I was gonna
yeah,
say
no,
he fits the part, I will say. Like,
yeah,
even though I do not really like Ajax as a character, and like I know that in some ways people like, especially if it's like a thing that when you're a young boy you like to see these like masculine badass characters, but I just as an adult woman, he was just swarmy to me.
oh,
I
he's
was like,
yeah,
you're
repulsive.
gross.
Yeah.
I don't like you at
yeah,
all.
yeah, yeah.
And he
No,
had that
no.
comment where he was like talking about how it's there for free because she was just sitting out in the open. Oh, it made
Yeah.
my skin crawl. I hate
No,
that
No,
man.
his character has not aged well. I don't.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how it read at the time because I didn't see this movie till I was in my 20s or maybe even a little later. That it was. I'd heard about this movie for a long time before I finally got a chance to see it. So I was already didn't love his character, but I knew him as an actor from other things and enjoyed his work. But Rob, like when you were talking about that, supposedly it was like this big stone table or something, and it was he was doing the scene, the arrest scene, and they were, he was supposed to be attached to this table and unable to move it, but as he's acting out, like because he's trying to lift it up like the same way, like he's trying to
He's
lift
actually,
up the
yeah,
bench and not able to do it. Well, it
right.
turns out this big table that he's not supposed to be able to lift up, he's able to lift up. And, this being the macho 70s, Walter Hill goes, guy can
Yeah.
lift up a really heavy thing. I like it.
It's
Uh,
perfect.
And I previously gave props to, or just the idea, the thought of what this policewoman went through, but
uh-huh.
the actual actress who played it, and she did great, was Mercedes Ruel. And we also recognize her. This was also her first credited film for Mercedes. She went on to play in other films like Big, Last Action Hero. Um, she starred in Lost in Yonkers, The Fisher King, Married to the Mob, Hustlers, various TV shows, Power, Psych, and Bull. You kind of another one that you see her and you just recognize her right away. She's a legit, very good actress, and yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
good
Yeah,
job.
no. It's always cool to see, especially like when they get their start in smaller things.
Yes,
Um, well, it's like I've just been, uh, because Paul Giamatti just won a Golden Globe the other day to kind of date when we're reporting this, uh, and it got me. I've loved his career for years, but thinking about like he got like some of the smaller roles. I remember
hmm
him in the, even late 90s, where I first started noticing him, before he started breaking out, as an unusual lead and, to where he is today. Uh, so it's always cool. Some actors are, kind of like big time, almost from, the start of their career, whereas others, they start off, in these smaller roles and you then go on to see them in much bigger things.
so true.
Yeah,
Uh,
the scene with the policewoman and Ajax was, and that in tandem with the like girl gang, and how like the other three guys are just instantly like, oh, gonna hang out. Like for me,
mhm.
I was instantly like, what are you doing? You've got more important shit to do right now. Like, and I get it, it's just like you're a teenage boy, I guess. Like
Yeah.
this is another thing I will never understand, but because it's like I feel like you've got important things to do right now. Then making out with some girl isn't one of them, but okay, do your
Oh, no, no,
thing.
no. You don't understand. When
Yeah.
you're a teenage boy, everything stops. That is
Well,
the
Everything
well,
stops.
priority.
Oh my
well,
God.
it's also like Swan makes that exact point to
He
Ajax,
does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
like because like the situation Swan and Ajax and the rest are in, because like just after the baseball Furies fight, is different than like the situation Cochise, Vermin, and Rembrandt are in when they're at Union Square Station. Shout out Union Square Station. I used to be very familiar with that one when I was in film school. Uh, and because New York Film Academy was there right at Union Square. But they, like they're thinking they're almost home and they're basically to safety. And then these women come up to them. And again, Kristen, to your point earlier, they still don't realize they're truly in danger. Like they
Right.
think the only real danger is from being in enemy territory. They don't know like there's anything about them specifically. So they meet these girls. They think, hey, we're almost home anyway. These girls are acting chill and cool to us. And, bigging us up, like talking about, oh yeah, you're the Warriors. We know the Warriors. You guys are great. Like of course I'm gonna, like yeah, I am great. Of course I'm gonna fall for that.
But that's why I kind of loved the girl gang, because like they're too easy. These men
Yeah,
are
yeah,
too easy. Like
yeah,
they're too
yeah,
easy. Of
yeah,
course the girls are gonna get the jump on him. Oh, but that cracks me up. But
yeah, yeah.
yeah, something I wanted to talk about before we moved on, because I didn't really talk about it in much depth. But while Mercy and Swan are kind of going through the tunnels, there's this really pivotal conversation, this really important conversation between Swan and Mercy, where you kind of get a better understanding of her character, and have an
Mhm.
understanding of why she is following these guys around. And she kind of just wants a better life. She wants to leave the sorry life that she left behind, and joining up with these other gang guys is the only way she knows how to do it, how to get to a better point.
Mhm.
And I really liked how even though Swan is kind of like slut shaming her throughout the entire conversation, she is not ashamed in any capacity. She's just
Mhm.
like, like I'm doing what I need to do to get by. She's a sexually liberated woman in the 70s slash
Yeah.
80s. It's really cool. And it's funny because to me, I felt like she's just acting like the guys, but the guys can't handle it. Like,
Mhm.
it's one other thing that so when I was looking up information about this movie, some people call her a prostitute, but I didn't even realize, like, so was she a prostitute and the guy's girlfriend, or was she just his prostitute?
It, I mean, like it's never even really said that she's his girlfriend in the movie, like in explicit
Yeah.
terms. Like
Right.
all you know is she's a woman in the neighborhood connected to the gang, and she's basically antagonizing both sides.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think the insinuation is that she's I hate to say it like this, but she's sort of like the neighborhood hoe. Like she's around, like she's that's what
yeah.
she does. That's sort of like you don't really know the truth about it, but you're 100% right that the conversation and the tone of with Swan was really powerful because regardless, what she's saying is I'm just like you and I'm trying to break out and find a better life as well. And you just kind of understand her actions. She's a survivalist, you know?
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think it's like around a little before this, but definitely this scene is where I was like, okay, I've got it. I understand why
Hmm.
she is like this and why she's so
Yeah.
intense.
Because
Yeah,
you just imagine what her upbringing was like, right? Like you can
exactly.
just
And she
tell. Yeah.
describes it, like cockroaches in the cupboard and stuff like
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
It really impressed me. Like just from simple lines like that, that really gives you the picture of the whole thing. I think the way that the script was written for that scene was really well done.
Yeah. No, credit also to the actors, very,
Right.
very well performed as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Definitely. They have great chemistry. And
Hmm.
so while we're talking about girl power and the girl gang, it's in this part here where we finally see that they are trying to get the jump on him. And Rembrandt, little innocent guy, he's not making out with anyone. He's just hanging out, and he realizes like, oh no, this is a trap. When the girls start locking the doors and pulling the weapons, and even though like they did get the jump on him, they are able to escape the attack. But they learn in the process from talking with the Lizzies that their gang and the whole community is after them because they believe that they murdered Cyrus. So that is when they are finally caught up. At least those three are caught up to the
Right.
fact of like, oh, that's why everyone is acting a different way towards us. And so every gang in the city must be looking for them. And it's from this information. Thankfully, this is about when all the warriors are kind of able to reunite at the Union Square station and kind of get caught up a little bit. But before they can really get caught up, they get into one more big fight. This one with like a roller skating gang called the Punks. And what's cool is like you get to see Mercy kind of get involved with the scuffle a little bit
Hmm.
and kind of
Yeah.
join in on the fight and help
Right.
them out. And it's also in this point while that is happening, it's finally to the point where the rest of the gang is like the gangs are starting to learn the truth, which is that Luther actually shot Cyrus and it wasn't the warriors. So that is when that part comes up, and they're kind of having to investigate that and understand that what they thought is actually not the case.
Right.
Hmm.
I tell you, I think that the fight with the punks in the bathroom of a um, train station, underground train
Hmm.
station, was probably the best fight in the movie. I think, if I
Yeah.
remember
And
correctly.
that
It,
took
wa-
several days to shoot.
yeah, I really enjoyed that one. That was a good one. You're right, and to see Mercy get involved was really cool. One note on the kid who Rembrandt, who was noticing the trouble coming when they were hanging out with the Lizzies, and just
Mhm.
he's a you notice it right away. His sort of a more feminine kind of dude, if you will. He's younger, kind of has like pretty eyes, and you kind of wonder about him a little bit. His real name was Marcelino Sanchez. Marcelino's career is short. He had small parts in 48 Hours. another Walter Hill movie. Hill Street Blues, which was a great show. Never mind, I'm dating myself. Chips, Chips, and a recurring segment on 321 Contact.
Which I am dating myself by saying I remember watching a lot of 321 Contact on PBS growing up.
Well, unfortunately, his career was cut short. He passed away from AIDS in 1986 at the age of 28.
Yeah.
So
That's so
R.I.P. But
sad.
he
Yeah.
was, he was a good character. I liked him a lot. It
Yeah.
was just, a little
Yeah.
different than everyone else in the crew.
Yeah.
You
No,
needed a character like that to make sure they didn't get killed instantly.
yeah. Well,
Well,
and there've been some that have said, the character is, queer coded, or as explicitly queer as they could make it in that time.
if that's true,
And whether
yes.
it was, deliberately or just coincidentally cast a gay man in the part, I don't know.
Well, I think what's cool about that though, because even like a long time ago, like we picked up on that. I think
Mhm.
what's cool is okay, but you're still part of the Warriors,
Yeah,
Right. It doesn't matter, which
exactly.
is very
right?
cool.
So either way, it works pretty cool.
Yeah,
So
well, I mean, we've already kind of heard from, Hill advocating for the cast to be all non-white like it was and to not whitewash it. The people working on the film were, fairly progressive even for
hmm
today, let alone for 1978,
right,
at least in
right.
certain ways. Obviously, I'm sure there, you know, other ways,
Yeah, and after watching this film as many times as I have, I also tend to think, and maybe this is something I pick up on, is that his character is probably the only one that shows innocence and
mhm.
vulnerability.
Yeah, because he's
Yeah.
supposed to be the youngest member of the group. Uh, at least the group that goes to Coney Island.
And that makes
Um,
sense because one of his responsibilities from the very beginning, when they meet up, was not to well, they didn't go there to fight, but his responsibility was to do all the tagging,
yeah,
so that they
Yeah.
to
could spray paint, the warrior symbols.
Yeah,
yeah,
he was never like the frontline guy necessarily.
Right.
yeah, yeah, which also goes, with why his name is Rembrandt, because he's the artist,
Yes.
and you know, but and also, why it would, it also makes clear, like in your mind, you immediately understand why it would be important for them on this journey
Mm-hmm.
to tag that, we were here,
Mm.
at some point, you know, so, later in the brag, you know, in the, talking to other gangs, our mark is as far as, this
Exactly.
point, you know, that we reach far and wide, so yeah, no,
You,
it's all. So one other thing, we were talking about how cool the character Mercy is. I guess this technically should have been mentioned earlier, but I couldn't remember exactly when she got the coat, but I'm pretty sure it's when she meets back up with Swan. If you remember, Mercy suddenly shows up wearing a jean jacket. Uh,
Yeah.
And Rob, you'd sent me that TikTok yesterday, but yeah, yes, I already knew this. That was actually the reason she shows up at that point with a jean jacket on is not because like that wasn't in the original script. That was to hide the fact from then on in the filming because this film, for the most part, was actually filmed somewhat chronologically, which not all films do. A lot of times you're like,
hmm
okay, we're going to film this part from the beginning, from the end at the beginning of filming, and we're going to film this part at, in the middle,
hmm
and so your time, actors are constantly having to be like, okay, what are we doing? Like, where does what I'm doing now fit into the broader thing? Because I'm a little lost, because it's a lot to keep track of, and uh, but I think they went relatively chronologically because which helped them keep keep the continuity with this coat, because what had happened is during one of the stunts, and I think it's like when they're doing the Fox, the brawl with the cops when Fox gets killed. The actress broke her wrist, or
I
and
think it
so
was
she had
her arm.
her arm, but she had a cast, and so they needed to hide the cast, and it was so they just improvised that, and that quick little explanation, which again fit very well with the character.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you wouldn't. I mean, I didn't like when you find out it's cool, but like it's not something noticeable. I think they
Yeah.
hit it well.
she still
Yeah.
looks raggedy, so
Yeah.
you
Well,
know.
and it all works. Now,
Yeah.
Kristen, do you remember? So she and Swan have already had the scene on the train where it's just the two of them and the kids, the prom kids.
No, that's way later.
Oh, okay.
I think.
I'm
Yeah, I don't think we're there yet. I think that's like very close to the end.
I'm sorry. I thought we were close to the end. I thought the neck.
I
I
think
must.
we are, but I think we might be discussing that coming up. But yeah, it has not happened yet.
Okay. Well, no, because I'm looking at your notes now, and like next up we're at Coney Island with the final confrontation. So that has to have already happened.
Yeah, we may have missed it. I do want to talk about that. That was a great scene,
Yeah,
actually.
maybe I just didn't include it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is
No,
an important
no,
one, so we can
yeah,
definitely talk
no,
about it.
no. So I think it's around here, like just before they meet up with the rest of the group. But not only is it important, like like it's not important from the sense of like you could tell the story without that scene, but it's just a great scene of, and it's a great bonding moment between Swan and Mercy.
Well, let's explain what happened. I mean, at
Yeah.
one point they're in a train cart and they're
They're
riding the
beat to
train.
hell.
They're
Yeah,
finally heading back to Coney Island.
they're a
Yeah.
mess. They're beat up. They have dirt on their faces, on their feet. That Mercy has dirt in her toes. Like she's,
Yeah, and they're clearly bruised and bloody. Like it's been
yeah.
a rough time.
So they're at a stop, right? And then on the stop, the doors open and two couples walk in, and clearly coming from their senior prom, and
Yeah.
they have what you wear, tuxedos and nice
Yeah.
dresses, and
The
they're
clothing was
laughing.
very 70s prom, but again, the actors, you're going, are you supposed to be teens? Are you guys in your 40s? I'm very unclear. Uh, you know,
Yeah, so
um,
Swan and Mercy are looking at them, and
eh,
you can almost envision what they're thinking.
well,
Yeah.
it's not just that. Like the couples come on and they're all laughs and smiles, and then they sit down and they get a load of Swan and Mercy, and they kind of stop laughing and get these kind of disgusted, scared looks on their face.
I
Almost
think what
And
makes the
judgmental.
scene so pivotal is that it's like a lot, so much is said within that silence.
yeah,
Like they don't need to
it-
say anything. They don't need to tell you what they're trying to show you.
yeah.
You can figure it out just from that scene alone.
Yeah, it's great acting from everybody involved, great direction, great, shooting, editing of it that, because you know exactly what the, privileged prom kids, we'll just say prom kids are thinking, and instantly Mercy's reaction to their judgment, and then Swan's reaction to that, and
Mhm.
every step of every way, and how that then bonds Swan and Mercy a little bit more, and it's
And
all
you've
just
been on the journey with them, so you
yeah,
know what they went through.
Right.
And it's almost like, how dare you judge us? Because you're almost like one of the lawyers at this point. Like,
yeah,
you're gonna judge us. And I think the best part is that one moment, Mercy starts to get a bit self-aware and is about to start fixing her hair a little bit, to fix herself
yeah.
up. And Swan stops her hand.
No,
He says,
but
come on,
that's what I
no.
mean is, like the reaction to the reaction, and that. she gets self-conscious based on their judgment, and he basically reassures her to, like, no, fuck them. We're
Hmm.
not going to be we're better than them.
That's
We
right.
don't need to we're not going to let them make us feel self-conscious, or we're not going to let them know they're making us feel self-conscious, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's almost like saying like don't change for some people like that. Like if you want to
Right.
be changed, change for yourself, not for these
yeah,
people that don't even matter.
yeah,
Yeah.
and especially then as they and talking about, like, that not only bonds them, but that reminds the audience of their bond, the audience's bond with them, and that the audience, through this, as we get close to reaching Coney Island and feeling that triumph, uh, we are sharing in that triumph with them, uh, is all pretty cool. So,
I
Hmm.
think I think it's moments like these that really elevated the entire film for me because otherwise it probably would have just been another like
Right.
yeah,
action-based movie, which to each their own. Some people like just only action, but I like that this
yeah,
has a little bit of extra depth to it. It has that extra layer that I thought was really, really cool.
yeah.
And
No,
also just the gangs. The silly
yeah.
little gangs really elevated the whole thing for me.
But just that thought was put into everything.
Yes.
That there are a lot of movies like this where they could have just been like, yeah, go ahead, put it on screen. Whereas, even the extras, gangs costumes, like in the big gang scene, Rob, to your point, like there are only 9 of every kind of costume,
Hmm.
that they went and thought out, like it would have been easy for them to only figure out the main ones that were going to feature,
Right.
uh,
But they kept it
and
going.
and then just been like, you guys just wear whatever you own already, or like, here's some random clothes. But they went
Hmm.
ahead and made sure every you know group had its own thing, even if it was never going to be super obvious or whatever. That, again, it's attention to detail, it's being thoughtful, it's,
Right.
that's a lot of what movie making is, you
Yeah.
Hmm.
know.
But it
Um,
also makes you wonder, like in this world, how do these gangs decide I'm going to be a baseball fear like gang? Like how are they deciding? You know what? We're going to
yeah,
dress
yeah,
up like baseball players. We're going to put on some roller skates and call ourselves the punks and fight
yeah,
people. Like so that's something I wanted to say. Like I know that Rob, you said this is one of your favorite fight scenes, which like I don't know, I'd have to watch again because it doesn't look like they're on skates during the fight. But like for me, my thought process was they're on skates, just push them over, dude. Like
So
you're
you know what's
fine.
funny about that? The funny part is you remember being on skates, but I think that was only no more than two. It might have been
mhm,
only one guy on skates because the other ones, because I was paying attention this time around because I kept on thinking they were all on skates and they
Yeah, I
weren't.
think I
They
think I thought so
yeah,
too.
they did have overalls were a big thing for them. I remember that. But
Yeah.
the
uh-huh,
other thing that I noticed, they were huge dudes. These were big
yeah,
dudes.
yeah.
Like
Well,
these were not little guys.
Yeah.
you then combine all that with just the confines of the bathroom. The bathroom's a tight space, and then you get like, there's like one of the few slow motion shot. They have a couple slow mo shots uh, uh, throughout the
Yes.
movie,
The
and
door.
one of them is tossing
Yeah.
the guy into the stall. Uh,
Yeah, some of those were a little over the top for me, but I was like, you know what? It just goes with the vibe of the movie, just over the
yeah, yeah,
top action. But yeah, a couple times I'm like, how are they beating the crap out of these huge dudes? Like, how?
I,
yeah.
I do think though that some you said where do they get the ideas for some of these gangs and what they were dressing up as. I think a lot of it comes from some a little bit of diving into some of the history, some of the gangs, and they're all from like true things. Like there were gangs that
Mhm,
definitely rode around with, baseball jerseys and bats.
mhm,
I remember growing up as a kid seeing some gangs like would wear cleats because they wanted to stomp on you or just scare you to thinking they're going to stomp on you. Like these things
Wow.
were all very real. I think it's accumulation, and then there's that Hollywood aspect. Like no one
mhm.
I don't think anyone actually
Yeah.
put makeup on. But you never know. There could be the story of that one night where one guy went a little crazy and he put makeup
Well,
on his face,
well,
and that
Rob,
becomes legend,
Yeah.
right?
to your point, it's taking the realistic stuff. But
And
then,
heightening it.
yeah, because Hill clearly wanted to make this a comic book, especially
Right.
like when, with the transitions he eventually got in the director's cut. He wanted to have that heightened reality as much as possible. He wanted this to seem like a near future kind of thing. He didn't necessarily want it to be set in the here and now and the grounded, gritty reality. Again, those are some of the differences between the novel and the movie. The novel was trying to very much be a sociological examination where it wouldn't even make value judgments on the actions of the characters, uh, and it would just report, essentially report things that happened, uh, and versus the movie is very much trying to show you good guys, good actions, bad actions, and also this heightened reality.
All right, so it's finally dawn. We've been with the Warriors all night, and they finally reach Coney Island in the morning, in dawn. But of course, when they get there, they find Luther and the Rogues waiting for them in a repurposed hearse. And Luther's trying to get them to come out. He sings a crappy little song asking them to come out and play. And they all come together on the beach. Swan challenges Luther to one-on-one combat, but Luther, as we already know, that this man does not play fair, so he pulls a gun out instead. But Swan is able to dodge the shot, and he throws a switchblade into Luther's wrist, disarming him. And it's around this time that the Riffs arrive, and they now know that Luther is the one that did it. So they take a moment to acknowledge the Warriors' courage. They basically apologize for sending the entire gang, like the big group, to them. And so before they take care of the Rogues themselves, they kind of have that moment where they're like, "Hey, sorry, we called it off." And so the radio DJ says, like, the big alert's been called off formally. And then she salutes the Warriors with the song "In the City," song, as Adam already mentioned, sung by Joe Walsh of the Eagles. And it's performed by the Eagles later, but at the moment, just Joe Walsh. And then the film ends with Swan, Mercy, and the rest of the gang walking down a Coney Island beach as the sun rises. So I know you had a comment, Rob, about the silly little song. Say what you want to say.
I felt like you kind of downplayed it, but that moment is like, probably the most iconic moment, right?
But you gotta admit it's silly. Like it made me laugh.
Oh yeah. Well, so like that whole thing was improvised. They had something else in the script and it wasn't working, and so Hill asked Kelly to come up with something, and so he went off and thought about it and kind of scrounged around and found the stubby little beer bottles to clink together, and then that was actually like a taunt that was directed at him as a kid, like, so it would have been like, David, come out and play, yay, and he kind of repurposed that.
The way he does it though, like
he
he looks psycho as hell. Like he looks
well,
psycho.
and his inflections, and I mean, like,
You're right.
The whole cast is great. I've always loved David Patrick Kelly in everything he does. But especially like at the end after he's been disarmed and the Riffs are there and they're rounding him up. And that wounded little child,
Yes.
Yeah,
no, it wasn't me. It was the Warriors.
Yep.
He's just so great.
Yeah.
he was
that.
it was already. I already thought he was a little bitch, but that whole thing at the end, I was like, this guy sucks.
Yeah. He proved it to all.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I am glad that, like, at least the Riffs did apologize for the fact that they put the wrath of God on them, basically.
Yeah. No. Well, and
I
think the Warriors kind of went, yeah, no, we get it, how this happened. But so you talked about like them walking off into the sunset.
Well, sunrise, but yeah.
The sunrise. Sorry, yes. But so the way they did that was, like, okay, we're gonna get the last shot, and like the whole, the actors are like tired, because this is, again, like one of the last shots they need to get. And said, we'll tell you when to stop. Like, whatever you do, like, we don't have a lot of time to reset for this. And we, don't have budget to, like, reshoot this later. Like, whatever you do, don't stop until we tell you, because otherwise you're going to screw it up and we're going to have to try and figure out how we can redo it again. So they start walking. And the actress playing Mercy, who Deborah, is telling this story, and she's like, we start walking, and they end up walking like 3 miles or more.
Oh my God.
Until they're finally over this, like, down the other side of this dune and, like, clearly out of sight. And they have to, like, start finding their way back until, like, a PA finally gets to them. It's like, yeah, you're
Another
good.
Warriors just to return back. Hilarious.
Just
That's
keep
awesome.
going, goes over the cliff.
Yeah,
You know what?
yeah.
I don't know. Did you catch at the very ending too how they did that effect that movies back in the day would do once in a while? I don't even know why, but like it would be like a stretched vertical video scene. Did you catch that? It's just this effect that the camera can do. It's almost like taking a square image and put it in vertical and it stretches it out. That was those sort of neat, like, reminder that you're in the 70s. Little touch to it. I thought that the song was a great song as the outro. Because it was all about the city and survival in the city.
Well,
really
I also like I like Joe Walsh as a performer. I'm not a big, like, I enjoy some Eagles songs, but overall I tend to be with the dude from The Big Lebowski on this, of, in his feeling about the Eagles.
I think it's so cool that this was written for the movie. I like I like when it's done that way, when it's written specifically with the movie in mind. You can really tell.
It also explains why Barry DeVozan is so pleased with it, because between the Eagles recording it and it becoming a big hit for them, to the point, they brought it, like, they had the Hell Freezes Over album, was their big comeback album, or whatever that was called. They included it on that too.
Oh,
so
he got paid.
Oh yeah, no, like, you could hear him, like, being practically giddy about this song. When he's talking about it in, like, the featurettes, and you're like, yeah, no, dude, I get it. You got paid. Like, he's not saying that, but, like, that's just me, like, reading
I thought you were
between the
going to tell me
lines.
I made more off the song than I did the movie.
Oh yeah. But no, I tend to, be in the Mojo Nixon camp of, Don Henley must die. Do not let him get back together with Glenn Fry.
Hey, that's a different topic altogether.
Yeah, we're not getting into any of it. No controversy in this one.
I touche. Boys of Summer. Come on, bring it on.
We've made it this far without any controversy, guys.
Yeah.
Gonna have to pull up the sign. X amount of hours since controversial topic. Kristen has had to stop.
Well, but it sounds like overall, our thoughts are, clearly, Rob, loved the movie since, he saw it before either of us. I, seen the movie a number of times over the past, 10, 15 years since I first discovered it. But Kristen, this was your first time watching it. So, what are your kind of final thoughts?
Yeah, I actually, it's not that I went in thinking I wasn't going to like it. It's just that sometimes movies you guys pick, I end up not enjoying, and then I feel bad about it. But I actually did like this one. Like, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was, like, the perfect length, had just enough interesting plot. Like, it had the action, but it also had that element of depth that I really enjoyed. And I mean, like, I don't watch a ton of thrillers. I think this would be classified as kind of like an action thriller, but I think this would probably be like a top movie that I watched last year, which I ended up liking it a lot.
Awesome. That's always good. No, and you never need to feel bad. That we have different tastes in things. I
Right.
mean, that's just,
It's just not
you
fun to
know,
have to
Next
shit
up
on
is
things you guys
Hush.
like.
Oh,
I know. Well, I'm sure, that'll all happen, with how we're alternating picks. And, hey, spoiler for what's going to be uh, uh, recorded for the audience coming up with the announcement of the next movie. But none of us know if we're going to like it or not because none of us have seen it. So even though I'm picking it. Um, we'll all find out together. So now that we, kind of talked about our thoughts about the movie and the movie itself, it's time to find out how it actually did at the box office. The most important thing on everyone's mind, of course, is box office numbers. I know, a lot of 6-year-olds out there, curious about that. So it opened on February 9th, 1979, and grossed $3.5 million its first weekend. While reviews at the time from critics were mixed, the audience response was immediate. Teens and young adults were drawn to the film and connected with the perspective of the warriors. But this connection also caused a problem. Violence broke out at a number of screenings, and soon the film had a bad reputation. Hill speculated that the violence stemmed from rival gangs attending showings, spotting each other, and clashing. Whatever the reason, the violence caused the studio to caused the studio to first pull advertising and then the film entirely. When all was said and done, the film had made $22.5 million on a $4 million budget. This is all in 1979 money. So, a lot more than that if you adjust for inflation. And went on to become a beloved cult classic, which means a lot of residuals and additional, money made on top of that. As of the end of 2023, there were talks of a potential TV reboot, a film remake, and a stage adaptation, possibly more closely following the book by Lin, with the stage adaptation being pursued by Lin-Manuel Miranda. And with that, we have braved the streets of New York and made it safe to the shores of Coney Island. And now it is time to talk about that next movie. Next time on the Savage Movie Nights podcast, we will watch a movie I only learned about while researching this episode. It stars Michael J. Fox and Joan Jett and was directed by famous screenwriter and director Paul Schrader. It is 1987's Light of Day. I have no idea if this is any good, but it seems fascinating. So let's find out together if the guy who wrote Taxi Driver and Hardcore can make a movie with Mr. Back to the Future and Miss Bad Reputation. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, as always, to my co-hosts, Kristen and Rob. Thank you to our editor, Javi, and the entire Savage Content team. Thank you to our sponsor, Jazzology with Laura Jenkins. If you'd like to leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts, if you are watching us on YouTube, give us a like, a subscribe, leave a comment, ring the bell, all the good YouTube things. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.